What is a science fact that not many people know that will change the way they look at life? Elephants are known to bury their dead under foliage and remain with the bodies for some time afterwards, exhibiting behavior not dissimilar to human mourning. Indeed, it is the association of apparent grief or mourning that is considered to indicate a burial, as opposed to simply covering up or disposing of a body. I also read somewhere that they have buried humans. Elephants have also been witnessed returning to these burial sites year after year to stroke and caress the bones of their loved ones in what appears to be a memorial ritual. They are so emotionally intelligent. During these memorial visits, they introduce the newest baby elephants to the bones as well. Water does not innately conduct electricity. It is all the dissolved stuff that allow electricity to pass through it. Water is fascinating stuff. Then why are electric attacks super effective against water types? Living beings have salt. Laszlo, I can just hear the exasperation in this. Not a single tarantula species is able to kill you with venom. So if you see a big hairy boy, just know it can't kill you. Not yet. What if that tarantula has a knife? Easy. Shoot the little ducker. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Typical that my most liked comment is about shooting a duck in spider. Close bracket. You'd also be teaching the tarantula that valuable lesson. Earthquakes can happen literally everywhere on Earth. However, humans rarely feel anything below a 2.5 in magnitude. When the lunar modules landed, the moon rang like a bell. They repeated it a couple times to be sure. Not life-changing, but kind of cool. The Amazon rainforest isn't actually the lungs of Earth. Almost all the oxygen generated by the Amazon is used by the life found in the Amazon. 40% of Earth's oxygen is actually produced by tiny organisms called diatoms. These organisms can replicate at an incredible rate, and trillions of them spread throughout the oceans and create oxygen through photosynthesis. When the diatoms die, they transform into underwater snowflakes that remain on the seafloor. When these seas dry up, the dead diatoms create a salt desert, like the one in northern Africa. Huge sandstorms pick the diatoms up and carry them across the oceans and drop them down on the Amazon, and are used as a fertilizer for the rainforest. Where are diatoms born? The rainforest. They spread to the sea, create oxygen through photosynthesis, die, create salt deserts, get taken back to the rainforest, and help create the rainforest that creates them. That's the circle of life right there. The rainforest outsourced oxygen production. Amazon doing it for the tax benefits OBV. Amazon working its diatoms to death. SMH. On average, Mercury is the nearest planet to every planet in our solar system. But the nearest celestial body on average is the Sun. Right? If yes, I think I get it. And as massive as they are, you could fit all of the planets in the solar system between the Earth and the Moon. Everyone on Earth is at least 50th cousin with everyone else on Earth. And if you are currently dating or married to somebody who is from your own country and is of your own ethnicity, there's a 1 in 5 chance that the two of you share a common family member fewer than 10 generations ago. Happy incesting. You could have kept this knowledge to yourself. Why did you share it? My 50th cousin? Now I have to live with the fact that I slept with my girlfriend, our 50th cousin. 50th. Or less. Neanderthal inherited genetic material is found in all non-African populations and accounts for somewhere between 1.5 to 1% of our genome. Some Australian Aboriginal and Polynesian people have genetic material from Denisovans. My favorite part of this story is that the name comes from a cave in Russia called Denisova, named after a guy that lived there. So one of the branches of humans is named after a guy called Dennis who lived in a cave. The retinas of our eyes capture things upside down. Our brains correct for it and turns the image the right way up. Didn't they do that experiment where they made people constantly wear glasses that turned everything upside down? And they actually adjusted to it pretty quickly, and things looked normal. Then when they took the glasses off, everything looked upside down again. Something I read earlier. Babies have around 100 more bones than adults. Babies have about 300 bones at birth, with cartilage between many of them. This extra flexibility helps them pass through the birth canal and also allows for rapid growth. With age, many of the bones fuse, leaving 206 bones that make up an average adult skeleton. I kept reading Barbies instead of babies. It made me so confused. Edit. I can't believe me not being able to read got me my first award. Thank you guys. Maybe some of your skull bones didn't fuse yet. Humans have enough DNA to reach the sun and back 100 times if it was made into a single strand. Did you know, if you took all the DNA out of a person and did this experiment they would die? It's true. Oddly enough you might survive for about 72 hours. High doses of radiation destroy DNA and people who have experienced them last about 72 hours. You won't die instantly, but your body will be unable to create new cells or repair itself. Not just create new cells, but your cells won't be able to make any proteins required for living. I'm obviously not speaking from experience, but I'm sure that would be an extremely painful death. I'm not a scientist or anything like that, but I doubt that you'd have the capacity to feel pain if this happened to you. Doubt you'd have much of a nervous system to feel the pain, or a brain to interpret the pain signal. Stealing this one from Neil deGrasse Tyson. But if the history of the universe was condensed into a regular calendar year, most of human history as we know it would only happen in the last few seconds before midnight on New Year's Eve. Someone has watched Cosmos, a Spacetime Odyssey. That anecdote is only used 7 to 10 times per episode. I'm surprised the commenter was able to pick up on it. DNA similarities among all forms of life. Humans and bananas are about 50% similar. Human and monkey DNA is about 98% similar. We are all just organisms on a rock in space. Humans are closer related to salmon than salmon are to sharks. The fact that fungi are more closely related to humans than they are to plants still bothers me at a visceral level. Magic mushrooms know what's up. They just want to be our shroomers. Oh my god. They were shroomers. A big enough solar flare could knock out the Earth's entire power grid. I wonder if this is discussed much at the national security level. There was a solar flare in the mid 1800s that took out the entire telegraph system. And I've read articles that say a similar event today would start a chain of events that would wipe out a huge percentage of the human race. Maybe they figure we're just completely ducked if it happens, and we don't have the technology to shield ourselves from the consequences. Coffee is rather acidic. Baking soda is basic. A chemical reaction needs energy to work. Put baking soda in the bottom of your coffee pot. Heat water to boiling for the energy. Add the hot water and slosh it around. The amount of coffee gunk that is cleaned away always amazes me, even when the pot looks clean. Rinse well. Now your coffee will taste better. Better coffee in the morning always changes the way I look at life. I'm gonna go home and clean my coffee pot now. The higher you go in elevation, the less heat it takes to boil water. You might also have to change cake recipes to accommodate the elevation you are at. The cake might not raise, spelling, using your normal recipe. To answer your question, the cake rises or falls, but you raise children or raise the flag up. If the human body is broken down into its chemical bases, it is worth about $15-20. Isn't the gift of life worth so much more than that? Whenever you touch anything, the electrons in your finger and the object repel each other, so technically there is no connection and you never really touch anything. The more you know, the less you realize we actually know. Einstein quote here is true and humbling. You mean Gretzky? You mean Michael Scott? You mean Abraham Lincoln? 100% sure you mean Snoop Dogg. Time is relative. Time passes slower if you move fast relative to somebody else. This effect behaves exponentially to the speed. Peaking at light speed, it can already be measured with atomic clocks flying in the opposite direction around the Earth, and must be included in GPS calculation due to the speed of the satellites compared to Earth. Blew my mind at age 17 when I read about it in some book about the theory of relativity by Einstein. It is also the reason why, if you would travel with a spacecraft traveling at half of the speed of light, you would age significantly slower than people staying behind on Earth. If you would travel with a spacecraft traveling at half of the speed of light, You would age significantly slower than people staying behind on Earth. But you would perceive your aging to be at the normal rate. It wouldn't feel like time was moving slower for you at all. Though if you communicated with Earth, it would become apparent that their time was moving faster than yours. Evolution can happen quite quickly. Significant changes can happen over years/decades for some fast reproducing creatures. Life is incredibly adaptive. That older planets have their own unique sounds from the different electromagnetic vibrations they have. Some sound like a metallic low ringing sound and some are high pitched. I don't know how to chuck a proper link into my Commentism on mobile, but it's on YouTube. Only 14% of men are over 6 feet tall. So if you're a single woman with this as a requirement, you're knocking out 86% of the population before the first date. Damn. Being 6'1" is really wasted on me in that case. Biology is just physics and chemistry iterated through time via evolution. Once heard someone say something like biology is just the chemistry. It's just that the chemistry of carbon is much more interesting than the chemistry of anything else. Biology is just a very specific branch of organic chemistry. That you are mostly made out of stardust, and you are mostly empty space. Dogs dream of the humans they love. I'm not sure if you can call this a science fact so much as a math fact, but 1 million seconds is 11.5 days, while 1 billion seconds 31.75 years. It's a mind-blowing way of understanding the difference between two numbers we often associate as being similar. In astronomy, many do not understand the distance between the Earth and the Moon. If you lined up all 8 of the planets side by side, they could easily fit between the Earth and the Moon with room to spare. You could have fit Pluto in that spare room. But no, you had to leave to wee Pluto out. At its most basic level, all life on Earth is just a runaway chemical reaction that started billions of years ago. So you're trying to say some chemicals just messed around and that's why I have to study differential equations through online classes? You don't have to do anything. You're just being tricked into believing that you do. You don't have to do anything. Yes, but we live in a society, so it would be nice if you could do at least something. Edison and Tesla clashed on the idea of our current. Edison didn't like the idea because he already invested too much on DC. Although ACK was way better, ultimately he fired Tesla from his company. But nowadays everything is running on ACK current thanks to Tesla. But he had to struggle a lot for that. Edison. That the Earth isn't a perfect sphere. It's a blob that undulates and shifts its shape as it hurls through the universe. The core isn't perfectly centered either, and there is uneven distribution of dense rock layers. Therefore the strength of gravity changes by a small amount depending on where you are on the surface. There are more viruses in the oceans than there are stars in the universe, by 10 million fold, and lined side by side, they would stretch beyond the nearest 60 galaxies. Not sure if it'll change the way you look at life, but it certainly shocked me to learn this. Dolphins are one of a few animals that commit evil willingly and with full knowledge of what they are doing. Iron is only created in a star's death. Do you know what's in our blood? We are literally composed of the remnant of dead stars, and I think that's fucking cool. We are currently experimenting with carbon nanotubes to create near frictionless surfaces. Theoretically, you could create a pair of surgeon's gloves, or even a operating table, that would never have to be sanitized, because germs and bacteria literally couldn't stick to it. 70,000 years ago, the entire human population was reduced to a mere few thousand by malaria. Our species stood at the very cusp of extinction thousands of years before we would plant a seed or lay a single brick. All of this, all of us. It didn't have to happen. It very nearly did not happen. Most of your body is empty space. Most of my body is fat. Many astronauts who go to space and see Earth from space have a shift in awareness. They really begin to see humans as all being one united species that should not be fighting wars or competing for resources. They see all of Earth and think we need to get along with each other and also preserve the Earth. Astronauts also report feeling incredibly small and fragile. They see Earth and life as fragile and precious. Back when human space travel was still new, it was customary in Russia to send war veterans, particularly old flight pilots, into space. One incredibly well-respected veteran who was known for his total support and patriotism of Russia came back telling everyone to stop fighting. His views totally switched. At the time, Russian astronauts never took a second flight into space, but they asked him to. His ship blew up. Most people think the Russian government blew up his ship on purpose for talking about world peace and the horrors of war. No one can prove that we are not in a simulation. No one can prove that there is not a weightless, invisible, untouchable monkey on their back. Macro scale of the universe, there are 10,000 stars for each grain of sand on Earth's surface. Macro scale of the universe, there are more atoms in one of our eyeballs than there are stars in the universe. We often marvel at how incomprehensibly vast the universe is, but don't even realize how much matter exists in such small spaces. Gas in our houses doesn't have a smell. It is synthetically added, so we can smell leaks. Additionally, each country region adds a different smell, so what each person thinks of as the smell of gas is different. Another addition. California makes their gas smell of rotten meat, so that vultures circle leaks in the large pipelines through open deserts, making them easy to find. Difference between medicine and poison is just the dosage. Anything, if you start taking too much, can become poison. Hey PSSST, please subscribe and like.